There's a horror movie death so medically accurate in its depiction of human suffering that when I researched the actual pain science behind it, I realized the filmmakers actually created something that might be the closest thing to real torture ever filmed. And what I found out about how bad this death would hurt might make you never look at horror movies the same way again. But before we get to that, you know what's funny about horror fans? We'll sit through 2.5 hours of terrible acting just to see someone get cut in half by a cable, then spend the next week arguing about whether it was realistic. Well, I've got news for you. That wire scene from the ghost ship, the one where a steel cable whips across a dance floor and slices through like 40 people at once? Yeah, that's actually the least painful way to die in this video. And before you start typing angry comments about how I'm wrong, or that I'm ugly, or that I once punched you in the 5th grade and stole your lunch money, let me explain something about your nervous system. When your spinal cord gets severed, which is what happens to most of these people, your brain has about 1 to 2 seconds before it goes, oh, we're not getting any signals from down there anymore, and just shuts down. It's not a gradual thing. It's not dramatic. Just like my panic attacks at 3 a.m., your consciousness just ends. The people that get cut at the waist, they probably felt a sharp sensation for maybe half a second, then nothing. Their brains literally couldn't process what was happening fast enough. The human body needs time to register pain, and when you're getting bisected by a cable moving at highway speeds, time is not something you have a lot of. Now, the ones who got cut higher up through the head of the neck, they had it even easier. Instant lights out. No pain processing at all, which is weirdly merciful for a horror movie that's basically 90 minutes of, look, a ghost ship, but spooky. Here's what's really messed up though. The movie shows people standing there for a few seconds looking confused before their top half slides off. That's just Hollywood being Hollywood. In reality, if your brainstem gets severed, you don't get a moment to process your situation. You don't get to be a Scooby-Doo character and look down and think, huh, jinkies. That's not good. Ruh-roh, Raggy. We just got bisected. Roh! Yeah, you just stop existing. I actually looked this up because apparently I have nothing better to do with my time. There are actual medical cases of people surviving similar injuries for brief periods, but only when the cut was below the chest and they got immediate medical attention. And even then, they reported feeling pressure and then nothing. Not agony, not screaming pain, just pressure, then nothing. Just like I do at 2 a.m. when I sit alone in my bed because nobody loves me. So congratulations, Ghost Ship. You accidentally created the most humane mass murder in horror history. Your big shock scene is basically a bunch of people getting the world's fastest anesthetic. Sure, it looks horrifying, but from a pain standpoint, these people basically won the lottery compared to what's coming next. Because we need to move on to Phantasm and talk about the Silver Sphere brain drill. The Phantasm Sphere has to be the most over-engineered murder weapon in cinema history. Someone designed a flying metal ball with built-in drills and blood suction capabilities. That's not horror, that's weird. But here's the thing that'll probably disappoint you gore fans. Getting killed by this thing is actually pretty merciful. Yeah, I know, a drill boring into your skull sounds terrible, except your brain doesn't have pain nerves at all. So once that drill gets past the initial skull breakthrough, you're basically home free. Let me walk you through what actually happens when a sphere latches onto your forehead. First, those little spikes grab your scalp. That's an ouchie. Your scalp has tons of nerves, which is why even tiny cuts on your head bleed everywhere and sting forever. So yeah, step 1 sucks. Then the drill starts spinning. Now you're feeling it bore through your forehead bone. The outer layer of bone does have some pain receptors, so this part registers as intense pressure mixed with sharp pain. Think of the worst headache you've ever had, then multiply it by 10. But this only lasts maybe half a second or a few before the drill moves fast. Once it punches through your frontal sinus, there's actually a weird moment of pressure relief. Sinuses are basically air pockets, so the drill hitting that space might feel almost good for a split second. Hell, I know, I've been congested since I was 4, so someone please take a drill to my head so I can finally fucking breathe. It's kind of disturbing to think about, but hey, take your wins when you can get them here. The real problem comes when it hits your dura mater. That's the tough membrane wrapped around your brain, and it is loaded with pain nerves. Getting that punctured feels exactly how you'd expect having your brain's protective wrapping torn apart would feel. Absolutely horrible. But again, this whole process is happening in under 2 seconds. After that, Nothing. Your brain tissue has 0 pain receptors. The sphere could be making smoothies in there and you wouldn't feel it. What kills you is the massive drop in blood pressure as your brain starts leaking everywhere because someone just turned it into watermelon puree. Plus, the sudden pressure changes inside your skull, you'd probably black out almost immediately. The guy in the movie flails around for a few seconds, which honestly tracks the medical reality. Your body can keep moving briefly even after your brain checks out. Muscle memory, reflexes, that kind of thing. But conscious suffering, maybe 2 seconds total. So the Phantasm sphere, despite looking absolutely terrifying, delivers what amounts to a very brief, very intense headache followed by instant unconsciousness. The tall man basically invented the world's most elaborate quick death machine. Kinda defeats the purpose of torturing people, but nobody said supervillains were actually good at their methods. And speaking of bad torture methods, someone thought acid injections were entertainment. Because in one of the Saw movies, William Easton gets pumped full of hydrofluoric acid through giant syringes. And I have to admire the Saw franchise's commitment to finding new ways to make insurance executives suffer. Most movies just have him get stabbed. But no, someone sat in the writer's room and thought, what if we dissolved him from the inside out? Hydrofluoric acid is legitimately one of the nastiest chemicals you can encounter. Chemists handle this stuff wearing double gloves because a single drop on your skin will eat through bone. The fact that the Saw people picked this specific acid tells me someone did their homework, which is both impressive and deeply concerning because why are you Googling this at 3 a.m.? When those syringes stab into William's chest, the acid immediately starts destroying everything it touches. His blood vessels, muscles, organs, everything. But the weird part is how hydrofluoric acid works. It doesn't just burn tissue, it also steals all the calcium from your body, which means his nerves start firing randomly while his heart rhythm goes completely haywire. So William's not just feeling his insides dissolve, his nervous system is also having a complete meltdown. Every nerve in his body is basically screaming at once while his heart starts beating in patterns that would make a doctor faint. It's chemical torture designed by someone who clearly spent too much time reading medical textbooks for their movie. The movie shows his ribcage melting and his flesh falling off in chunks. That part's actually pretty accurate. Hydrofluoric acid doesn't mess around. It'll eat through glass, metal, bone, whatever. William's basically getting turned into Kraft dinner from the inside while still being conscious enough to experience it. Now, in real life, this would probably end you pretty fast. Please, if you hate me, do not try this at home to prove me wrong. Just trust me here. I am not a doctor. I have zero formal training whatsoever, but I know that putting acid into your body is a no-no. You maybe have 30 seconds to a minute tops. Your heart would stop working once enough calcium gets yanked out of your system. But those 30 seconds would feel endless because hydrofluoric acid causes this specific type of nerve pain that's apparently unlike anything else. Medical literature describes it as deep, boring pain, which is a very weird review for pain. But let's dive into that. What really gets me is the Saw franchise always tries to justify these elaborate deaths with some moral lesson. William denied people healthcare, so now he gets dissolved by acid. The whole trap probably cost more to build than William's entire annual salary. Giant syringes, precise acid measurements, timing mechanisms. Jigsaw spent some serious money on this revenge plot. Like, have you ever tried to buy hydrofluoric acid? Have you? It's expensive. Go try to buy some right now. Actually, don't. You're going to end up on a list. Please don't. Please do not go on Amazon and buy a jug of hydrofluoric acid. The FBI will be at your door. Trust me from personal experience. I know. Do not ask. Don't ask. So at least acid works pretty fast compared to some of our other deaths. Next up is someone who prefers artistic dismemberment. Because in Saw 3, Detective Carrie wakes up with metal hooks already pierced through her ribs, and someone thought it would be poetic to call this the angel wings trap. Because nothing says divine intervention quite like having your chest cavity ripped open by a timer mechanism. Carrie's got maybe 60 seconds to reach into a jar of acid, grab a key, and unlock herself before the device yanks her rib cage apart. The acid will destroy her hand, but apparently that's the lesser evil here. It's the world's worst game show where every prize option involves someone getting really hurt. Those hooks are sitting right underneath her ribs, pressed against the intercostal nerves. Every breath she's taking is already sending pain signals through her chest. Intercostal nerves are why broken ribs hurt so much. They run along the bottom of each rib, and they do not appreciate being disturbed. When the timer hits 0, the trap starts, pulling her ribs outward from her sternum. If you didn't know, ribs aren't supposed to bend that way. They're supposed to stay attached to your breastbone, protecting your vital organs. This device is basically asking them to become decorative wings instead, which they are not built for. Don't use your ribs as wings. It won't make you fly.
Oh my God!
Each rib that snaps off her sternum is its own individual fracture. Multiple bone breaks happening at the same time while she's fully conscious. Your body registers bone fractures as deep, aching pain mixed with some sharp stabbing sensations. I would know. I broke my arm in like the 2nd grade. You wanna know how I did it? I jumped off a play structure this tall. This is about 4 feet tall. I'm sitting, so I'm not 5 feet tall. Don't start that rumor, please. I'm actually 6'2". I promise. I'm not lying about that. I would never lie about my height, but it was about 4 feet off the ground, and I jumped and I landed on my arm like this, and it broke. And then the doctor didn't look at it properly. They didn't think it was broken, so it was in a sling, and then it started healing wrong. And then I actually had to go to minor surgery, and they had to re-break my arm to set it properly. It was not fun, but I got, my dad bought me the Simpsons racing game for the Game Boy at the hospital. That was fun. I got to play as Homer Simpson while he drinks and drives. It's almost like real life. Anyways, this trap doesn't just break the bones though, it's also tearing through the cartilage that connects ribs to sternum, plus all the intercostal muscles that help you breathe. So Carrie's not just dealing with fractures, her entire chest structure is being dismantled piece by piece. Meanwhile, her lungs are probably collapsing because the chest cavity just lost its structural integrity. Collapsed lungs feel exactly how you'd expect them to. Like drowning while being crushed. That air hunger mixed with chest pressure that gets worse with every attempted breath. The whole thing takes maybe 10 seconds once it starts. 10 seconds of feeling your ribcage being turned inside out while your breathing system shuts down. Carrie probably blacks out from pain overload before the trap finishes, which might be the only mercy in this entire contraption. Jigsaw calls this a test of survival instinct, but really it's just an elaborate way to kill somebody. The trap was rigged from the start. The key was already dissolved by the acid before Carrie even barely woke up, so she suffered through hand burns and chest torture for literally nothing. Even by Saw standards, that's pretty messed up. Art the Clown does everything by hand. No power tools, no elaborate machinery, no fancy chemical engineering. Just him, a hacksaw, and what appears to be an unhealthy amount of free time. It's the difference between fast food and fine dining, except both options end with you being dead. Dawn gets hung upside down, which is actually the worst possible position for this particular procedure. Hanging upside down keeps blood flowing to your brain longer, which means you stay conscious while everything else is happening. Art either knows this or he got really lucky planning this. My guess is he knew what he was doing. And if you didn't know, manual saws move slow, real slow. Each back and forth motion cuts maybe a 1/4 inch deeper, and Dawn can feel every single stroke of that blade working through her body. There's no quick death here, just the steady rhythm of someone who's apparently never heard of efficiency. The saw starts between her legs, which hit nerve clusters that exist specifically to make that area extremely sensitive. Those nerves evolved for important biological functions, which I don't need to tell you about. They didn't evolve to be severed by rusty metal. Evolution really didn't plan for horror movie villains when designing the human nervous system. And Art takes his time. He's not rushing to get to his next victim or worried about getting caught. This is his hobby, and he treats it with the same care you'd expect from someone building model airplanes. Except model airplanes don't scream or bleed, which makes them significantly less disturbing. As the saw works through her pelvis, it's cutting through bone, muscle, and organs at the same time. Each stroke damages different tissue types, triggering different pain responses. It's not just one type of agony, it's a comprehensive tour of every way your body can register damage. The blade reaches her abdomen and starts sectioning internal organs. Intestines, liver, stomach, each organ sends its own distress signal through different nerve pathways. Dawn's nervous system at this point is basically getting overloaded with pain. By the time the saw gets to her chest, Dawn has been conscious for what feels like hours, but it's probably only 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, manual labor is slow work, even when you're enthusiastic about it. The hacksaw finally reaches close to her head, and that's when the lights finally go out. 3 minutes of feeling yourself being divided into 2 separate pieces while hanging upside down. Art probably considers this his masterpiece, which says something about his artistic standards. But 3 minutes seems reasonable until you consider what paralysis can add to the equation. Because in the Green Inferno, someone in this tribe studied pharmacology. They figured out the perfect drug cocktail to paralyze Jonah while keeping him fully conscious and aware. That's not something you learn from traditional medicine. That's modern chemistry applied to ancient butchery techniques. I mean, obviously they didn't actually study this stuff, but it's a miracle they know that this combination exists. The paralysis drug they use works exactly how you'd want it to if you were planning the world's most horrific dinner prep. Jonah can't move, can't scream, and can't even close his eyes, but he can feel everything. His motor functions are offline while his sensory nerves are working overtime. They start with his eyes, just pop them right out with a sharp tool. Eye removal hurts exactly as much as you'd expect, except Jonah can't react to it. No screaming, no thrashing, no protective reflexes, just pure sensation with no way to express it or escape from it. Next comes the tongue. They slice it off with what looks to be like a kitchen knife. The tongue has a ton of nerve endings, more than most other body parts. It's basically a nerve cluster wrapped in muscle tissue. Cutting it out would normally trigger massive pain responses, but Jonah's body can't do anything except experience it. Then the tribe moves on to limb removal. Arms first, then legs. Each amputation is its own separate trauma event. Major nerves getting severed, bones being chopped through, blood vessels being cut. 4 individual amputations while fully conscious and unable to move or vocalize. They're not using surgical techniques here. There's no clean cuts, there's no consideration for blood loss management. They're just hacking through whatever's in the way with machetes and axes. The kind of rough butchery you'd expect from people preparing meat for dinner, which is exactly what they're doing. Between each amputation, Jonah's just lying there, processing what happened while anticipating what's coming next. Complete mental awareness trapped in a non-responsive body. He knows they're gonna keep cutting pieces off him, and he can't do anything about it except wait for the next one. The whole dismemberment process probably takes 15 to 20 minutes. That's 15 minutes of experiencing major surgery without anesthesia while being unable to move or communicate. The tribe's drug dealer really knew their business when they figured out this particular combination, because modern anesthesia spends billions of dollars trying to prevent exactly this scenario, being aware during surgery. These people achieved the opposite on purpose using plants they found in the jungle. That's either impressive botanical knowledge or a deeply disturbing history of a tribe's medicine. So yeah, their drug is sophisticated, but stomach acid requires no expertise whatsoever. Found footage movies usually end with the camera getting dropped and going static. This one ends with the camera being dissolved along with the people holding it. The Vatican investigation team films their own death by stomach acid, which is either dedicated journalism or really poor decision making. At the end of the movie, Deacon and Gray chase Screams into underground caves thinking they're rescuing someone. Instead, they end up crawling through what turns out to be the digestive tract of some ancient pagan creature. The whole church was apparently built on top of a sleeping monster, which explains why the property value was so reasonable. The walls start feeling organic, squishy, warm, the kind of texture that makes you immediately want to be anywhere else. But by the time they realize they're inside something alive, they're already too deep to turn around. The creature's throat muscles are probably contracting behind them, sealing off their exit route. Stomach acid doesn't mess around. It's designed to break down everything from meat to bones to accidentally swallowed coins. Human stomach acid has a pH around 1.5, which is roughly the same acidity as battery acid. This creature's digestive system is probably even stronger, considering it needs to process entire human bodies. The acid starts eating through their clothes first, then their skin. Chemical burns feel different from regular burns. They feel more like of a deep penetrating pain that gets worse as more layers of tissue get dissolved. Gray and Deacon are basically being marinated while still conscious. Ultimately, they keep filming while their skin starts falling off, and you can see them scream hopelessly into the dark void. The creature's stomach muscles are probably massaging them while the acid works, using its muscle to push them deeper into the digestive chamber while breaking down their body structure. They're literally being turned into its food in real time. Deacon tries praying while his face melts, and Gray just screams until his vocal cords dissolve. These are two different approaches to the same inevitable outcome. The creature doesn't give a shit about their religious preferences. Protein is protein. The whole digestion process would probably take maybe 10 minutes of screen time. The whole digestion process would probably take multiple minutes of actual time. That's tons of time of watching two men realize they're being slowly converted into monster food while documenting the experience for their religion. Ultimately, the Vatican sent these guys to investigate a miracle, and they ended up providing lunch for something that's been hungry since medieval times. That's either some sort of like big divine irony, or there's a whole conspiracy behind the Catholic Church. Getting eaten alive sounds terrible until you meet someone with this type of torture device. Whoever designed the heathen stand really went overboard. You don't know about this torture device? In Apostle, Jeremy gets strapped to this thing that's basically the worst thing I have ever seen. It's a giant hand-cranked drill where you tie someone down and drill into their skull. And not like a little tiny drill, I'm talking a massive gaping hole. And it's two different types of drill. The skull drilling starts with the scalp removal, which hurts plenty on its own, but then they keep drilling through the bone. The skull drill is gonna trigger deep head pain and pressure sensations. Like poor Jeremy in this movie is just getting destroyed. He's also like the nicest character in this movie who's in love with another girl his age, and it's like the silver lining of this entire movie, which is so depressingly scary. And he literally dies for the most unjust reason possible. And the worst part is he stays conscious through most of it, because if you've seen my other videos, you can't feel much pain from your brain getting actually messed up. You will only die from your brain getting messed up when it finally like destroys most of your brain. And so you just see him lie there and suffer this entire, it's hard to talk about even, it's so messed up. And that's why the heathen stand wins this video, because it is just so downright disturbing. I can't even have more words for it. It's just that bad. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you get, I don't know, bad. But if you enjoyed watching this video, I encourage you to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. And we actually have a bunch of videos just like this already made, which you can watch by clicking the video up in the top right corner right now.